The 1980s were the golden age of British television. While MTV was booming across the Atlantic, Britain had its own daily drama. The soaps, EastEnders, Coronation Street, Brookside, Emmerdale. These shows weren't just entertainment, they were rituals. Millions of Brits would pour a cuppa, kick up their feet, and dive into the lives of fictional families they knew better than their own neighbours. But with fame comes pressure. And with pressure comes silence. Because some stars vanished, without interviews, without headlines, and without a trace. Today, we're looking at 5 British soap stars from the 80s who disappeared without warning. Why did they leave at the peak of their careers? What happened behind the scenes? And are they still out there? Let's begin. You probably remember Amanda Barry as Alma Sedgwick, fiery, sharp-tongued, and one of the most glamorous women ever to grace Coronation Street. But what most people forget is that Amanda Barry first appeared in Corrie back in the early 1980s, playing the same character, Alma, in brief and sporadic stints before she suddenly vanished, just as her character was gaining popularity. Back in 1981 and 1982, Alma was just a cafe owner with an attitude. Audiences loved her chemistry with male characters and her unapologetic independence, a quality rare for soap opera women at the time. She had screen presence, star power. It felt like she was destined to become a core cast member. And then, all of a sudden, she was gone. No major storyline, no dramatic send-off. Amanda Barry walked away, turning down a full-time role. The press speculated. Was it a feud? A failed negotiation? In reality,
Amanda Barry was deeply unsure about committing to a long-term soap career. In her own words, she felt boxed in by the soap format
and wanted freedom to explore film and stage roles. At the time, she was also struggling privately with her sexuality, identity, and pressures of fame, all of which she candidly opened up about years later in her memoir, It's Not a Rehearsal. What many forget is that Amanda had already made a name for herself long before Coronation Street, in the Carry On film series, in West End theatre, and in comedy television. She was a true showbiz survivor who had seen the highs and lows of British entertainment. For nearly 6 years, she disappeared from Coronation Street. Then, in 1988, she returned, this time full-time, and went on to become one of the soap's biggest icons for over a decade. Her disappearance in the early 80s wasn't permanent, but it was sudden and mysterious. And at the time, it shocked viewers and producers who had pegged her for stardom. In the very first episode of EastEnders in 1985, there was one character who ruled Albert Square with strength, sass, and unmatched screen presence. Lou Beale, played by the legendary Anna Wing. Lou was the matriarch, the moral compass, the original heartbeat of the Beale family, and in many ways, she was EastEnders. Fans adored her for her no-nonsense wisdom and sharp tongue. She reminded millions of viewers of their mums or nans, and her character became central to the soap's early success. But then, in 1988, just 3 years after the show's explosive debut, Anna Wing left EastEnders. Her departure stunned viewers. There was no scandal, no obvious contract breakdown. She simply declined to renew her role. Why? In interviews years later, Anna revealed that she loved the character of Lou Beale, but felt the role was emotionally exhausting and creatively limiting. She was 74 years old at the time, and the filming schedule for EastEnders had become too intense. She didn't want to be tied to one role for the remainder of her life. Unlike others, she didn't vanish from acting completely. She went on to do occasional stage and film work, but never returned to soaps, and refused every request to make a surprise EastEnders appearance, even as a ghost or flashback. In the early days of Brookside, few characters stood out more than Billy Boswell, played by Nick Conway. Launched in 1982, Brookside was bold, political, and gritty, and the Boswell family gave it heart. Nick Conway's portrayal of Billy was instantly iconic. Cocky, streetwise, funny, and always scheming. With his fast-talking Liverpudlian charm, he became one of the most recognisable soap faces of the 1980s. By the mid-80s, Billy Boswell was at the centre of Brookside storylines. Fans adored him. He even appeared in spin-off merchandise and interviews. Many expected him to be a soap mainstay for years, but just as quickly as he rose, Nick Conway vanished. By 1989, he had left Brookside with very little explanation. No controversy, no farewell tour, just gone. So what happened? Nick Conway later revealed in rare interviews that he'd grown frustrated with typecasting. Being known only as Billy Boswell limited his opportunities. He also wanted to return to his roots, theatre and teaching. In the early 1990s, he quietly transitioned into working behind the scenes in drama education and even ran a theatre company. For years, Nick taught drama in schools and community spaces, helping the next generation develop confidence and stage presence. His time on television was relatively short. His impact lived on far beyond the screen. Unlike many actors who chased the next big role, Nick chose a quieter path, turning down fame for something more meaningful to him personally. While he's appeared occasionally in small TV roles or stage projects, Nick Conway remains one of the few 80s soap stars who stepped back voluntarily and never looked back. Which 80s soap star do you wonder about? Drop a name in the comments. Like, subscribe, and click that bell icon so you don't miss our next deep dive into forgotten fame. Before she became the iconic Edna Birch in Emmerdale, Shirley Stelfox was all over 1980s British TV. A talented character actress, she flitted between shows like EastEnders, Brookside and Coronation Street, playing sharp-tongued women who always had something to say. She had that old-school magnetism, somewhere between Judi Dench and Your Terrifying Aunt. But somewhere around 1986, she vanished. Stelfox stopped appearing in regular soap roles. For years, no one knew why. Was it burnout? Was she blacklisted? Turns out, it wasn't a scandal, it was theatre. Shirley had grown tired of the repetitiveness of soap roles and wanted more depth. She threw herself into classical theatre, spending much of the 1990s on stage. Then, out of nowhere, she reappeared on Emmerdale in 2000. Not as a background character, but as one of the show's most memorable names, Edna Birch. Her 14-year soap break left fans stunned. But in hindsight, it was simply an artist choosing integrity over screen time. You grew up watching Angels or Z-Cars, you'll remember Gillian Bailey. A brilliant young actress with intense screen presence, Gillian had already been working since the 70s, transitioning smoothly into 80s adult roles. She was versatile, confident, and, at one point, appeared in Dixon of Dock Green, Softly Softly, and Angels all in the same year. Then, she disappeared. Many assumed she'd retired, but she didn't. Instead, Gillian completely reinvented herself, because Gillian didn't just want to perform stories, she wanted to study them. She returned to university, earned a degree in English, followed by a PhD, and became an academic under her married name, Dr. Gilly Bush Bailey. She's now a respected professor at Royal Holloway, University of London, where she lectures on gender, performance history, and British television culture. Her research often focuses on forgotten women in media, and she's published extensively on feminist theatre, voice, and performance. Though she rarely talks about her acting past, Gillian's work today helps shape how the next generation understands the very industry she left behind. Her departure wasn't dramatic, it was deliberate, and in many ways, it's the most empowering story on this list. Television is about characters, drama, conflict, but life is quieter, messier. Sometimes, the real story begins after the camera stops rolling. Some left for peace, others for pain. A few just wanted something real again. The 1980s gave us unforgettable soap stars, but as you've just seen, not every actor wanted to stay in the spotlight. Fame doesn't last forever. And for these 5, that's exactly how they wanted it. And if you loved this video, don't stop now. Check out our next episode on You Won't Believe Who's on the List.